Welcome to Rootstem, and in this video we're going to show you how to paint this type of terrain real quick. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me. If you do enjoy the content, please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification button if you do want to see more. It does help quite a few of the creators out on YouTube, especially when you're doing niche stuff like this. So today's video I'm going to be looking at March of War terrain pieces. Now I did see some of these on this one Winter's SEO channel. He was actually doing a couple of battle report with some of these terrain pieces on here, and I thought these look really nice, and I was going to get myself some. They're not cheap compared to some others, but that's because they're a bit like old Forge World resin. And I say that because I used to, I bought Forge World stuff for a long time, especially when the company first opened, when you had to telephone it in. There was no website. You got a brochure, you got some codes, you telephoned them, they put the codes down, they took your payment. That was about it. You got it in about 4 weeks later. This does remind me of old sort of Forge World terrain. Unfortunately, there is some miscasting to say how expensive they are. You do have to do release agent, and I'm going to have to, fill in quite a lot of gaps here with green stuff. I have pegged and fortified the top, but as you can see from this, it's not aligned, so I've only really opened one. I've got what's called style B of the terrain pieces. I am going to paint this up and see what it looks like once I've done it. It's going to require a little bit. What I like to do with terrain is to get it, build it, paint it, done. I don't want to spend a long time on terrain. I much prefer to spend a long time on models. Terrain is great. You make it look good. But also when somebody picks it up and does a real close inspection, it's not going to hold up. The reason I do that is simply because it's easier to get a load of terrain out to fill out a 6 foot by 4 foot board, which everyone knows I much prefer full table sizes. I've also got some of these smaller ruins, and if you wanted to see a size comparison, see if I can just change my camera angle. And I've got the Yorker shock attack gun that I painted not long back. This is mainly for height purposes. As you can see, it's got a bit of a decent sort of height to it, especially when you go to the top. So it's going to fit a lot of modern 40k figures quite well. And you can even, thankfully, get underneath, because that is one of the big things with some of these bigger models, is trying to get underneath some of the terrain pieces. They kind of remind me a little bit of those old school card pieces that you got in Warhammer 40k 2nd edition. I'm trying to just a light in there. So they kind of do remind me a little bit of that. It's better. And I've got another couple here to build up. We've got style D, which is a 2-story, and we'll be able to have a look at how high that one goes. And unfortunately, I have creased up the bag. Oops. And I've got style C. So this is one of the smaller pieces. I'm going to get the other two styles built up so we can have a look at the overall, sort of how big it looks overall. And once I've done that, we're going to start looking at painting these bad boys. Now we have all the pieces here. As you can see, we've got our style B. We've got style B. This is style C, which is very similar to style B, just a little bit bigger. And you've got this towering monstrosity that is style D. Now I can only put snick rot in there. Can you see that? These are kind of like the scales and sizes that we're getting here. Not bad. They do fit 40k, but I'll be honest with you, they only just fit the bigger 40k sizes. It does remind me of old school terrain from Forge World, and if I'm honest, the way it, if you have a look, it's not flush, a lot of it. There's gaps everywhere, so if you wanted to make this look properly professional, you're going to have to use a lot of green stuff. This, as you can see, is falling forward. I have pinned and bolted majority of that, but can you see how then top layers are completely different? It's even a different type of resin. They're a different size. They don't fit flush. So if you're looking for it to use like I'm using it, which is just, hey, we just want to get some terrain on the table, it's fine. Really exquisite, intricate pieces, no. Now bearing in mind that I got style D, C and B, I also got 2 of these retaining walls as well, and it cost me nearly £100. Is it worth £100? Probably not, if I'm completely honest with you guys. It's a little disappointing. It's very small, and for 100 quid of Games Workshop's plastic terrain, I get a lot better deal, if I'm honest, which I don't normally say that quite often, but I do think Workshops, I'd probably get more bang for my buck. Out of that, I mean, what's this going to do? Like a single building maybe? Just going to move that. It's probably just going to give me a single building. It's not really going to give me anything hugely important or great. I may have to spread it out a little bit. I mean, I can always do that with the retaining wall. I have got them because they come with their own bases, because I will be, if you've ever watched any of my channels, I will be just putting the grit out, and then of course that makes it a bigger terrain piece if I actually do stuff like that. But again, it's a little disappointing, but by and by a little disappointing in the actual product. Let's see how these paint up. So, first off, we're going to get it undercoated. I've just done a quick spray of Chaos Black. If you can use a cheap spray can, please do so. I'm going to the other side of the camera, so behind it. Reason why I say use a cheap one is because it can take quite a lot. I have missed places, but it doesn't really matter at this particular stage. I love it how when it's starting to dry, that's when you realise you've missed bits. So I'm going to get some Mechanicus Standard Grey. I don't have a lot left in this particular can. And what we're going to do is to try and coat, but we're not going to go... We're not going to go kind of like, we're not going to try and get in every crevice. We're just going to go straight. So we're just going to do that. Try and get more in the more prominent sections. Back and forth if you can. Don't forget there is some, we'll be able to get those on the base later. They haven't got to do too much on the inside, remember that's going to be in shadow. And then come at it from an angle. Not on the back, just on the front. I'm going to do something, and I am going to put a little bit on the inside there. We are going to do something with those little base bits. If you can, when you're doing the angle, try and get the bottoms. So, at the moment, we've got a building that looks like that. Now, before this can dry, I'm going to get some grace here, and I'm kind of going to do the same thing. I've never had to do spray on camera, so bear with me. I'm just going to, from even greater distance, you see how that's picking a lot of that up. Look at that. It's like I'm not even having to try. Wicked. Now one of the final things I'm going to do, I'm going to try and hold it as vertical as I can to myself and just do that with some Corax white. Look at that. Got a good looking grey building there. Now the next bit, I'm going to be using some of the acrylic spray. This is crimson red, and all I'm going to be doing is holding it at an extreme angle so I don't get it on any of the other stonework. Just there we go. Now you will get a little line. Don't worry about that. We're going to be able to correct that with some airbrushing later on, and maybe even correct that as well. Ooh, right. If that happens, just go back to your normal cans. I've got a bit there. Now once that's dry, I'm going to get some, it's called Beige Greens. This is another acrylic spray. You only get them quite cheap from your local hobby shop. And I'm just going to do the same again. There we go. So we're getting a nice pattern. In fact, if you wanted to, you could always use that as your main base. Hi guys, so right now, different camera angle than what I'm normally used to, but it just makes it easier. You could, if you wanted to, because it's nice and dry now, you could pretty much leave them as they are. But what I'm going to do is to advance them up. So what I'm going to do is just get a small brush, or a biggish brush, whatever you need, and then manually paint little bits. Now it doesn't have to be everything, because you can just leave little bits, but I'm going to kind of match these to my bases that I tend to use on my models, so that everything is going to fit together. Now I'll bring you back in once that's done. So I've got my bases done how I would like it. I mean, I've not finished it completely, but it's because I'm going to be dry brushing it with a colour later. Now, this thing here, these tiles that I've done, I'm going to have to make them silver, but I'm going to do that right at the end. If you're following along, I'm going to get some Agrax Earthshade gloss, and I'm just going to put that, I've got a large shade brush here, and that's just going to go all over the tiles. Don't matter if it's a bit messy or streaky. Yeah, we've got some dirt and dust which I'm going to get to later on with an airbrush. So I'm just going to paint all them up, let that dry, and then we're going to come on to the next stage. And one of the final things we're doing is we are just going to dry brush some Shabty Bone over the entire thing. Concentrating on these rock piles if you can. And then we're going to get those silver beams painted, but I'm hoping by this point I don't need to teach you how to paint silver. And there we go. I've still not done the silver bits, but you know, again, like I say, you don't need to show me how to silver. And I've painted it up with the dry brushing. So, I am going to do a flame separately, but if you guys want to know how to do that, I'm going to do a different video basically showing how to do quick and simple flames. Not using an airbrush, I'm going to do a contrast method. So it's going to be a bit like a quick blend, as it were, going from sort of like the red at the top to the yellow at the bottom. But thanks very much for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button if you do enjoy the content and want to see more. Don't forget to head over to my website, that's rootstem.co.uk. I try and update the latest news on there as best as I possibly can with my personal opinions on what's happening with the current world of Games Workshop. And of course, if you're wanting some commission work on there, that's how you get in touch with me. Just get in touch with me through there. And I've got some links on there. There's the bunker. I'm going to kind of, I think, change that. I'm going to just improve it a little bit, make it a bit more streamlined and easy for people to use. But there's army lists and all sorts of other things on there as well for folks to enjoy. Well, thank you very much, guys, and we will see you next time.